do it.
You're always prepared. Okay. I will call to order the Murray City Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, December 16th, 2021. It is 6:32 p.m. Present this evening, we have Travis Nate, Lisa Malkiewicz, Ned Hacker, Sue Wilson, and Jake Pearson. And I am Mary Patterson. I'm the chair. Excused, we have Commissioner Lowry isn't joining us tonight. From staff, we have Jared Hall and Zach Smallwood and Susan Nixon and Bryant Farnsworth. And remind me, Danny Astle. Sorry, Danny. Okay, we want to welcome the public. Thank you so much for coming to this meeting this evening. I'll just quickly review some etiquette. We would ask you all take a moment to silence your cell phones. And if you do need to take a call, that you would step out into the hallway. This meeting is being recorded. And so if you would like to make a comment about an agenda item, we would ask that when the time comes, you would come up to this podium and state your name and address into the record, into the microphone for the record. So, and we'll go over that when the time comes for those things. We'll start with our business items. Our agenda item number 1 is approval of minutes from the November 18th meeting. Have all the commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes from our November 18th, 2021 meeting as written, and if there were a couple comments that we talked about in the pre-meeting.
We didn't have any in the pre-meeting. Was there something that you wanted corrected? No. Okay, perfect. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next is our conflict of interest. Do any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest with any of the agenda items this evening?
Madam Chair, I don't have a conflict of interest, but I will declare that I work for Intermountain Healthcare.
Thank you. Any others? No? Neither do I. All right, we will move on to item number 3, approval of findings of fact. Have all the commissioners had an opportunity to review the findings of fact for the conditional use permit for the Spine Institute? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve a conditional use permit, to approve the findings of fact for a conditional use permit for the Spine Institute, Justin Holt, to allow the construction of a new 2-story medical office building on the subject property located at 5775 South Fashion Boulevard.
Great, thanks, Commissioner Wilson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We will move on to our conditional use permit agenda items. We have a conditional use permit for Wonder Bloom. Is the applicant here with us this evening? Okay, perfect. First, we'll have a presentation from staff.
Thank you. Can you hear me? This request is from Wonder Bloom Preschool for a denominational school located at 1580 East Vine Street on the south side of Vine Street. It is currently, the property is occupied by Presbyterian Church, Cottonwood Presbyterian Church, that's been there since 1957. Denominational schools are allowed in the R110 zone with a conditional use approval from the Planning Commission. The property is in our R110 zone as shown here. It's surrounded basically by R110 also. And the church has some 24,000 square feet. It's large. The actual request is for just 2 classrooms highlighted there in the red. This picture actually needs to be oriented more turned to the right there because the north is actually to the left. So the classrooms are actually on the west side of the church. And they would like to occupy 2 classrooms, room number 9 and 10, for their preschool, and potentially have up to 30 students with 6 staff members. Here's some photos of the property. The upper left picture is actually a good picture of where the students would enter. It's on the west side. There's an ADA ramp there, ADA parking. You go through the doors, and the classrooms are just on the right hand there. So very convenient to the parking lot. Also is the proposed playground area that is fully fenced and enclosed for the students. Then the other pictures are the frontage on Vine Street, and then also a view from the rear of the church from the parking lot. The reason that they selected this particular property is the Presbyterian Church has a beautiful garden area at the back, over an acre of garden area, and the Wonderbloom focuses on a holistic approach with a lot of nature involved, hands-on type learning for the children. So this is actually an ideal location. They have formed a kind of joint venture with Presbyterian where they are sponsored by this church, therefore it's a denominational school. The closest, let me go back to this site plan back here, the aerial. The closest residential boundary for any other residential areas is over 100 feet from the actual classroom area, and playground area, so it's quite a ways. So as far as noise and whatnot, I don't think there would be any impact for that. The hours that they would like to operate are from 7 a.m., basically from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. That's a little bit of extended times, which that's what we've requested in here as part of the approval. And then up to, like I mentioned, up to 30 students. We sent out 146 notices to the surrounding residents and only heard back from one adjacent neighbor who was just inquiring about the hours and the number of students that would be there. So our findings for this request is for the denominational school in the R110 is allowed under the R110 zoning district with conditional use. And with conditions, we feel that there will be little to no impact, and it does meet the standards of the Murray City land use, and the proposed use is not contrary to the goals and objectives of the Murray General Plan. So staff is recommending approval for the conditional use for the Wonderbloom, a non-denominational school at the property at 1580 East Vine Street, subject to 8 conditions as outlined above. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Looks like there are no questions. Okay. All right, if the applicant could come forward. And just state your name and address for us.
My name is Sarah Stone. My personal address is 1419 East Galaxy Drive in Sandy.
Great. Thanks so much for being with us.
Mhm.
Have you had an opportunity to review the conditions of approval?
Yes.
And you'll be able to comply with those?
Yes.
Great. Is there any other information that you would like to give the commission?
Just that we're really excited to work with Murray City and Cottonwood Presbyterian Church.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. At this time, I will open this meeting for public comment regarding this item. If you would like to make a comment on this agenda item, you can do so at the podium and state your name and address into the microphone for the record. You will have 3 minutes to make a comment, and we will address any of your questions or concerns after the public comment period is closed, all the way closed. So is there anyone that would like to comment on this agenda item? Okay, please come up.
Hi, I'm Rick Erbaum. My address is 1579 East Garrett Town Cove in Cottonwood Heights. I've been a member of Cottonwood Presbyterian Church for 44 years, and I'm on session. I'm the elder over buildings and grounds. So right after I'm done here, I have to go to a 7 o'clock meeting tonight in the snow, but we're getting used to snow. Anyway, we really welcome Wonderbloom. We think it's a great opportunity to bring younger people into our congregation. We're pretty old, but we got a new young minister now. He's only 37, this Nathan Sauter. And we're looking forward to having some younger kids around and using the playground. And we have 54 garden plots in the community garden, and we raise produce they sell, and then the money goes to the Utah Food Bank. And so it's a great program. And we're close to the Woodstock Elementary, which is just down on 13th East. And they have a lot of their kids come over when they're teachers during the fall and the spring to learn how to garden and how things grow. And so it's educational. And Wonderbloom is downtown now. They have a location down on St. Mark's Episcopal on First East and Second South. So I've been down there looking at that school, and they basically want to expand out here because there's to the demand for young kids to have preschool. So we welcome them and hope we get the permission to have a school there. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments for this? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public comment portion and bring it back up to the commission for discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion that the planning commission approve a conditional use permit to allow the construction of the proposed Wonderbloom, a denominational school on the property located at 1580 East Vine Street, subject to conditions 1 through 8.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Pearson to approve a conditional use permit for the Wonderbloom denominational school at the property located address 1580 East Vine Street, subject to the 8 conditions, and a second by Commissioner Wilson. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, we can take a vote.
Okay, Mr. Ney,
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich? Yes. Mr. Hacker?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
And Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
And Chair Patterson?
Yes. So motion passes, it's approved, and good luck with your preschool. Thanks for being here. All right. Moving on to agenda item number 5. Is the applicant with us this evening for the Intermountain?
Yeah, they raised their hands.
Oh, perfect. Sorry. I probably looked down right when you did that. We'll have presentation from Zach.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. This is a request from Intermountain Medical, Intermountain Healthcare, I apologize, for an expansion of their central lab building located at 5252 South Intermountain Drive. The parcel that they operate on was too big, so I had just took a small portion. Otherwise, you wouldn't see where it is. But it's located here on 5300 South and Woodrow Street. It is located in the CD zone, which is our commercial district. As you can see right off the bat, the rendering of the proposed building, it's a single story, expanding the building from 40,541. They're expanding an additional 45,000 square feet, so a total of 85,000 square feet for the central lab building. Let's see. So here you can see the existing lab building outlined right here in the where I'm kind of highlighting. The proposal is to shift or add the additional to the west portion here. It will cut off the circulation completely around the building, as was kind of mentioned earlier on in the staff review meeting. We didn't see any potential issues with that. There still is 360-degree access to the building through the parking area and through that loading area to the south as well. So you can see here is the landscaping plan. The whole IMC area kind of operates under one conditional use permit, and the landscaping meets throughout the entire site, so we're not concerned about that there. One thing I did want to touch on is that they are removing quite a few parking spaces. You can see that highlighted here in red. They'll be kind of shifting that around. I'll kind of zoom in here. You can kind of see how it's being relocated with the parking there. The whole site has 4,781 stalls after the expansion, and the total parking required was 4,740. So they still have about 40 stalls extra.
Can I ask a question on that?
Of course.
Does that include the parking lot that's on the other side of Cottonwood Street?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we did calculate the parking there, and I did suggest this in the staff report that if IMC decides it wants to move, start adding additional buildings in the future, they might need to consider building a parking structure, an additional parking structure or something in the future as part of any new building coming forward. So I forgot to take this slide out, so don't worry about it. I felt these were more instructive. These are kind of elevations or renderings of the building. It's going to look much like what IMC looks like right now. They're not proposing to do anything radically different with materials or colors. It's going to be a mix of glass, stucco, and metal paneling. As you can see, again, I called out in the staff report that it was only one floor. I did miss this tiny little section right here that's going to be a second floor. Really doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the square footage that was proposed, anything like that. That all stays the same. So staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the amendment to the conditional use permit for the subject property, subject to the 10 conditions. Any questions I can answer at this point? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If we could have the applicant come up.
Hello, my name is Corey Craycroft. I work in the design and construction department with Intermountain Healthcare. Our office is located at 36 South State Street, downtown.
Great, thank you. Have you had an opportunity to review the conditions of approval?
I have.
And you'll be able to comply?
Yes, we will.
Great. Is there any other information you'd like to give the commission?
I don't have any. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a question, Madam Chairman. So could you tell us number of people that work in the existing lab? And so you're going to double the size. How many additional employees do you expect would be in the new building?
Yeah,
the
I'm going
new
to
section.
invite my architect up. I don't know if you have that offhand. I didn't memorize that information, but there is going to be additional people working there. It's less than you would assume. We're not going to double it because they already have very many employees now that are necessitating this expansion. But we will be adding some future staff at the lab. Do you have the number?
It currently runs 24 hours a day as well. I think the anticipated number is going from about 120 to 280. But it has with the parking capacity and stuff, it could go up to 500. But we're planning on the 280 as a max based on the build out.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we will have you sit down and we'll open this agenda item for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to come to the podium and make a comment about this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public comment portion and bring it back for a discussion or a motion.
Madam Chair, I just like us, to have the discussion that we had in the pre-meeting where we talk about the fact that they are now near build out with parking availability on site. And then I think that the city needs to seriously consider addressing ground floor commercial, any parking structures that are fronted on any of the major streets, whether that be Cottonwood Street or State Street for future projects. And I think it's something that the Planning Commission should request that staff move forward on and present language that will make sure that we preserve those corridors to commercial activity and not just walls of parking.
Yeah, that is good consideration. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
Quite sure. Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission approve an amendment to the conditional use permit to allow construction of an expansion of the central laboratory building at the Intermountain Medical Center, property address 5252 South Intermountain Drive, subject to the conditions 1 through 10.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hacker to approve an amendment to a conditional use permit to allow the construction and expansion of the central laboratory building at Intermountain Medical Center, property address 5252 South Intermountain Drive, subject to the 10 conditions. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and I have a second by Commissioner Malkiewicz. We can take a vote.
Okay. Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkevich,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nay,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes. Okay, motion is approved. All right. Moving on to our general plan amendments for Brad Reynolds Construction on Allendale Drive. Is the applicant here? Yes, great.
Okay. So like you had mentioned, this is a request for a general plan and zone map amendment for the property 662 West, 5300 South, and 5322 South Allendale Drive. The combined total is about 5.66 acres, located just north of 5300 South and a little bit east of 700 West, as you can see located on the map here. It is located in the CN zone, which is our neighborhood commercial zone. This typically allows for things like gas stations, smaller retail establishments, things like that. Back in, I don't remember what year it was. I think it was 2019. Doesn't matter. The Planning Commission approved a senior living facility at the subject location. Unfortunately, those property owners were not able to obtain financing to do that, so they are potentially looking to sell the property. Brad Reynolds Construction is looking to possibly rezone this property to allow for a townhome project located here in the RM15 zone. The RM15 zone does allow for up to 12 units per acre as a base density. You can get up to 15 units per acre through a lot of work. Haven't seen it happen yet, but you can get up there. The general plan does call this to be neighborhood commercial, so they are requesting a general plan amendment. Through the staff report, we do lay out some items explaining why we support this change. One of those is that the neighboring properties are within about the same density. They might not be in the exact same zone, but Applegate, I think, is an RM15. The apartments to the north are in an R18 zone, but they are about the same density as well. So we do think that a change is pretty consistent for the neighborhood. Also, we do feel that any additional housing in this area would help stabilize the single-family neighborhood that's just to the east of the subject property. As you can see here, there's probably a dozen, maybe 24 homes, 27 homes. There you go. That would be located here. We think that changing it to an RM15 would help stabilize those and keep them from going the way of the dodo. So the neighborhood commercial future land use category kind of explains here. It's a allows for mixed use development in smaller neighborhood centers and along neighborhood corridors to preserve or cultivate local serving commercial areas. And the medium density residential, which is what the applicant is requesting, is allowing for a mix of housing types, which are smaller multifamily structures like townhomes, things like that. And it does call out for an RM15 zone as one of the corresponding zones in that area. So a couple zone comparison, a zone comparison thing. Residential is not allowed in the CN zone currently, except for assisted or retirement facilities. The RM15 would allow for single family homes at 8,000 square feet per lot, or 12 dwelling units per acre for multifamily units. The height is up to 40 feet in the RM15 zone as approved by the Planning Commission. Front yard and rear yard setbacks are 25 feet. Side yard setback is our typical setback of 8 feet on one side for a total of 20 on both sides. And then parking required is 2.5 off-street parking spaces per dwelling unit. So I wanted to include this slide to kind of show you guys are familiar with how Brad Reynolds constructs his housing types. You're pretty familiar with his projects, but I wanted to include this to show kind of the type of construction we're looking at potentially in a project. We're not showing an exact project. These aren't exactly what's going to come forward, but this is the type of product that Brad builds. So we do believe that in the findings, the general plan provides for flexibility in implementation and execution of the goals and policies based on individual circumstances. We believe that the amendment from CN to RM15 has been carefully considered based on the characteristics of the site and the surrounding area, and the potential impacts can be managed within the densities allowed in the RM15 zone. And the zone map amendment conforms to important goals and objectives of the general plan and will allow for future development of the property. So this will require 2 motions, one for the general plan, one for the zone map amendment, and we are recommending that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval for both of those things. So any questions so far?
I'm not sure when this comment's appropriate, so I'll just try now.
Sure.
I like this project. It has a lot of positives for the area. I have to say I'm still somewhat disappointed that the 2 plots are being addressed as one for medium density. It would have been nice if the plot on 5300 could have been R&B still. In the pre-meeting, we discussed that a little bit. I understand there's difficulties with that and why it can't occur. But
Yeah.
if you look at the map just further up the road to the east, we have some R&B, and it'd be nice to be able to have some commercial along there for multiple reasons, but one, because when we put residential in there, we might end up with a fence along the road, makes a little tunnel there, not very walkable. But
Sure, and I'll kind of address that, Commissioner Milkevich, as we kind of spoke about in the pre-meeting. Part of the reason for that is that UDOT's very strict about what's allowed on what access is allowed on their streets, and they don't allow access on their streets at all. So unless you already have an access here, they won't allow additional access points there. So this property is genuinely, it is pretty locked in. There's no real way to access it outside of through this existing drive. Otherwise, we would support that as well. So that's kind of the hard part there, is trying to do that balancing act. So
If all traffic will have to go in through Allendale, what do you think that the traffic impact will be? Because I'm guessing it doesn't need a traffic study, like only certain zones or certain projects require it.
the city engineer may require a traffic study. This might rise to
Before
that.
the project.
Yeah, before
Okay.
the project. This might rise to that level. I'm not 100% sure though. It just kind of depends.
Okay.
I thought it's 100 trips per day. Doesn't matter. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
So, but we'll have to take a look at it. But I would anticipate that it wouldn't have any. That this is a pretty wide drive, as it is. It's fairly. It's probably as wide as 7th West, I would assume, almost. And it's. Yeah, I wouldn't. The traffic impact probably wouldn't be too bad on this street.
My other question is, I know you showed some examples
Mhm.
that we are not supposed to consider
Correct.
in a zone
Yes.
change. But when they do come back with a project, what kind of site overview do you have for a project like this? Like, you can make recommendations maybe, but you don't really have like a review, right? Necessarily.
I guess I'm kind of
Well, like just some of the projects that are that have higher densities come in, and we're really looking at how you're orienting buildings,
Mhm.
especially with 53rd here,
Right.
and how that's going to, like we said, if it'll be fenced in, things like that. But
Sure.
you get to review it, right, and make a recommendation, but
Yes.
you don't necessarily have like site overview.
Right. Like we're
Approval.
not dictating exactly what it's
Right.
going to look like. They'll propose a layout, and we can work with them on that layout
Yeah.
depending on how we feel about it. We can work with, and Brad Reynolds Construction has been very easy to work with when it comes to those things. So we're not too concerned with that.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just thinking when it's coming to like orienting things along 53rd, and we're
right.
trying to figure that out.
Correct. Yep.
Can I ask a follow-up question to Marin's questions? On the north side of the property, it looks like it wants to be a road that's not completed there. How, I think it depends on the project and what happens there, but is that road available to be opened up as a road? Do you think it'll be made a through road? Would that be dictated in the project? What's happening there?
I'm not sure. I think when we did, it is a private access, but I think when we were working with the senior living, we had asked for that to kind of connect.
Yeah,
So
because
there,
this is like a rehab place, right? And they're gonna
right,
maybe, like,
exactly. So
share a-
there could be a potential. It looks like Jared really wants to say something. He's leaning. So I'll let Jared speak to that for a second.
1 second, just about a couple of quick things, because you're 100% right about that. There is some access. Yeah, you got to get right on these microphones anymore to make them audible. There is some access potential there, and there's, I believe, an easement from working with Stellar before that's attached to this property, so we can take folks out to 7th and not just Allendale. Zach's 100% right about the 53rd South and that control of UDOT. We worked with them for a number of years with Stellar, trying to decide what to do there, and that's part of how we ended up subdividing this property, trying to make that force that issue with UDOT, and still no budge from them. The other thing to remember about the process as you go forward, and as we're alluding to that a little bit, is this is multifamily housing, and these are attached, even though they're lower density in townhomes. They're still attached, so they're multifamily, and that requires in this zoning that's being proposed, the RM15, a conditional use permit. So under conditional use permit, you're allowed as a commission, the one thing you're allowed to do is propose or impose conditions to mitigate impacts. So when you're looking at that pedestrian tunnel on 54th South, and that is going to be an issue, you can impose that as a condition that we want to see a 6-foot sidewalk or a 7-foot sidewalk as opposed to just that 4, so that it's safer and feels better and has a kind of a buffer. Those are the kind of things that you can do. And you can look at that orientation. Like Zach said, Brad's outfit has been really good to work on those layouts with us in all cases. But you can impose some of those things as long as there's a connected, there's a nexus to why you're asking for it. As long as it's not arbitrary, you can ask for those conditions.
And since we're speaking in theory, just
Yeah.
Is there potential maybe for a requirement for wider sidewalk and a park strip?
Sure.
Or something like that, set it back more?
Yeah.
And at that point, we would be looking at traffic patterns. If this private road along the north doesn't come to fruition, there
Right.
might be greater concerns with traffic.
Right. Then you'd want to look at the traffic patterns. And like Zach said, we want to leave that up to the engineer's office to decide if we need it, because at 100 units, the policy is we do a traffic study. Or 30 lots, we do a traffic study. I think that Mr. Reynolds intends to do these as ownership lots. He likes to do townhomes that can be owned. So we'd probably be looking at subdivision as well as conditional use permit. But even if we weren't, there aren't enough units to dictate under the policy that we normally use that we would absolutely do a traffic study. But given some of those other conditions that exist, he may ask for that anyway. He hasn't yet during the zone change proposal, but he might in the case.
Can I just ask a question about Allendale Drive? Does Allendale Drive connect to 700 West as is, or is it just a looping road? It does
It
connect.
does, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question real quick regarding that road? Sorry, I'm going back to the road.
I yield my microphone back.
So this is a private road up top here. Nobody can tell where I'm pointing, but at the north end of here. So we can require them to connect to that and then allow access to cars that
We can't,
from
but the easement that exists.
because
May.
because of the easement.
They could use it.
Yeah.
Well, the easement would make it possible, but not demanded.
Well, I mean,
Depending on
the
how it's
easement's a
written,
contract,
so-
if it allows for it, then they'll use it if they can. We can't require it because it's not our property. But if the contract is a contract, if they're allowed to do it, we'll have to do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay. Oh, Susan wants to say something too.
Hey, just to give you a little history on that access easement. When the transition center went in, the rehab center that's right on Murray Boulevard there, 7th West, same thing. When that project was approved, one of the requirements that they imposed at that time was they wanted that access at the north end there granted to this property on Allendale, so that for in the future, that would be a potential road that they could use. That's why it's stubbed in. So that was actually requested at the time that the rehab transition place went in.
Is there a tiny piece of property that no one knows about that's a protection strip?
I'm glad we saw a laugh.
Protection strip. All right, we can have the applicant come forward.
Hello, Brad Reynolds, 2500 East Haven Lane. We're very happy to be back in Murray City with a new proposed project. We appreciate the relationship that we do have with planning and building staff. They've been great to work with and very responsive, and I think they have truly helped some of our projects be more successful. We we have recently just finished a project there off about 10th West and about Winchester that goes out into the golf course, those little homes that went out there that seem to have a great response. I think they're very unique, and they sold very quickly, and it's a nice neighborhood. We're currently working on the project there at 525 East. Winchester, just east of Fashion Place Mall. I know when we were proposing that project, we had a lot of neighbors with concern, as you recall. And now that it is just about complete, they're all sold out, we've had several conversations with neighbors, and overwhelmingly, they're very pleased with the finished product. So we take great pride in that we certainly try to work with neighbors and make sure the finished product turns out well. We have been building for over 35 years. And I think as I look back, I can't recall a time when it's been more challenging for builders and developers with shortages, supply chain issues, and increased costs that seem to change on a daily basis. And I think even as challenging as it's been for builders, it's been more challenging for future home buyers. And I think that's why this particular product is in such demand. And I think it will serve a great need in the community. I think as you look at the surrounding area between the commercial, the retail, the elderly care facility, some of the apartments, and then the residential homes to the east, we think this will provide a nice transition to the residential neighborhood. And I think it will solidify it, and it will also make the community stronger and better. So we're excited with the prospects of this project, and we think it will certainly enhance the community. It will be an attractive project. All of our units that we're doing like this have granite countertops, two-tone paint. They're very high in quality, traditionally a lot of brick or stone, and this will be that same type of project. Can I answer any questions for you?
Questions for the
I have a theoretical question.
Okay.
Since we're not discussing an actual project, theoretically, how many units do you think you might put on this property?
That is a good question. We're still working on conceptual plans. If you took the maximum of the 12 units per acre, I think it works out to be 66 or 68 units.
And will there be amenities in that?
There would be, yeah, there'll for sure be like a playground, some different gazebos or parking, a little park areas where you could have benches and different things like that. We haven't narrowed that down, but there will for sure be amenities.
Thank you.
I guess I have two theoretical questions as well.
Okay.
Because I realize there isn't a project to discuss yet. But on the south side of the property, our discussion earlier about a wider sidewalk and maybe a park strip, would that be a significant concern to you, or do you think that's something we could discuss easily in the future?
That is something we'd be more than happy to discuss and do.
Excellent. And then on the north side of property, that private drive, do you have any information? And we've talked about it pretty thoroughly, but do you know anything
Sure.
that we don't know about the existing easements?
You know, we're looking into that, and certainly if we can use it, we will do it. I'm just not sure of all the particulars right now to make sure that's a possibility. But if we can, we will use it.
I'd just like to point out that the Winchester project, while internally it's a beautiful project, it's a most unpleasant walking experience if you're walking along Winchester there. And that's of no fault of yours. It's just that wall creates a pretty bleak place to walk. And we'd really like to, do everything in our power to protect the folks that are having to walk along 5400 South there, because this has potential to be a bleak place to walk.
Yeah.
It's, clearly a high volume traffic corridor.
Sure.
And we want to be cognizant of
Certainly, I appreciate that, and would certainly welcome any recommendations for future products or projects.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I would like to open this meeting for public comment regarding this item. If there's anyone that would like to come speak to this.
My name is Clint Gaither. I live at 5341 Allendale Drive. I dare say that I'll be the person most impacted by your project. Me and my neighbors, we're right across the street from this. I welcome development, as all the neighbors do. We are owner-occupied people on the street there. Currently, on Allendale Drive, between Spartan Way and Murray Holiday Drive, there are only 30 residents, 30 people or less living there. This development has the potential to increase the number of people living on that street by 400%. That's going to be a sizable increase in human activity. Not necessarily bad, but it's certainly going to change my life. So I am very interested in what you are proposing. I've gone and looked at some of your developments. You appear to be a very reputable builder. I hope that's what we get. I fear that because we're not in the phase where we're going to look at the project itself, that we're going to blanket this out as an R15. You're going to somehow back out, and we're going to end up with 40-foot high square box apartments full of Title VIII residents. I hope that is understood by all of you what I'm talking about. That's my fear. I'm an elderly man. I can't afford to leave and move anywhere else, especially given the current real estate market. So I'm very concerned with what gets planned, and I want to be included in any of the planning that goes into this project as it goes forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and expressing your public comment. Is there any other comments regarding this agenda item? No? Okay. I will close the public comment portion for this. Zach, is there something you can speak to about changing the zoning since we're not considering a project? Is there any protections for residents in this zone change?
I can't say. I can just go off of how Brad Reynolds has conducted himself in the past. He has. I know that this property is up for sale, and it's contingent upon this zone change and general plan amendment. So if for some reason it doesn't get approved, I would assume the sale wouldn't go through, and therefore nothing would really change. that's really all I can really say. If the zone does get changed and for some reason Brad Reynolds does back out, which I haven't seen in any of his projects so far, then there is a potential for somebody to come in and build.
But that person that would
multifamily.
come in and build wouldn't be able to build big apartments.
They'd
They
have
would
the
have
same
to fit
It would
within the
it would
same
still be the same restrictions.
zoning of
Yeah, same
RM15.
zoning of RM15, same max zoning of
They couldn't.
yeah,
They couldn't get a higher density than
correct.
what is
Correct. Than the 12 units per acre.
Sort of coming back and asking for another zone.
Another
For
reason.
except for that.
And they would be expected to follow the exact same regulations for setbacks, height.
Exactly. And they would
units.
still have to come before you guys for a conditional use permit and or PUD or whatever
So we
happens.
can't assure aesthetics, but we can assure some of the regulations. And
Correct.
size.
Yeah. The regulations of the RM15 zone would apply no matter what.
And if this goes forward, we would anticipate that they'll have to come before us at least one time, and if there's subdivisions involved, then perhaps even a second
Even more.
time
Yes.
before it goes to the city council for approval as well. So
Nope.
oh,
So
sorry,
yeah.
sorry, not for a subdivision.
Yeah, subdivision and conditional use would just come before you guys.
That would still give you multiple opportunities to come in here, say what you
Yes.
need to say, see what they're proposing, and really have a rich understanding of what's potentially coming forward.
And in addition, it's a question. I believe Mr. Reynolds has met with the public in the past, so there could be the opportunity to meet with them potentially as well.
I guess my question also though is if this zone change doesn't move forward, I mean the way it's currently zoned has not brought development in a way that
Correct.
has been feasible to
Right.
even multiple developers have kind of come through, looked at this property and tried.
Sure.
So I mean the potential is it would just stay undeveloped as it is.
Potentially, yeah. Either vacant or some other developer would come by.
Which in itself could have some negative ramifications on that community because currently the community is zoned for office.
It's future land use.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Future land use suggestion is office, therefore that could happen in the future if this becomes residential, strengthen the residential existing.
Exactly. It does
Well-
strengthen. It strengthens the neighboring residential and kind of the residential around it as well.
Attaches the residential to the surrounding residential neighborhoods.
Correct.
Because right now you're kind of an island unto yourself. I mean, you know that all too well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and the commercial could have some commercial development in it, right?
Correct.
As it's zoned right now.
It could,
The
yeah.
neighborhood commercial could
Right.
have a bigger, potentially who comes through could have a bigger impact.
Right.
Okay.
Zach, can you explain the height for the RM15? It says that 40 feet as approved by the planning commission. So
Yes.
do we have the ability to lower that?
I don't think so. There is a height that they're allowed to go up to by right, and then you're allowed to grant an additional
Go up
up to.
higher.
Yeah, you can go up to higher.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or discussions for Zach? Okay.
I'm just gonna stand up here because I'm gonna have to record a
Perfect.
thing anyway.
If there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval of the city council for the requested amendment to the future land use map, redesignated the properties located at 666 West, 5300 South, and 5322 South Allendale Drive from neighborhood commercial to medium density residential.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Ney and a second by Commissioner Wilson to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested amendment to the future land use map, redesignated the properties located at 666 West, 5300 South, and 5322 South Allendale Drive from neighborhood commercial to medium density residential.
Commissioner Ney,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
What'd you say?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkevich,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then for our zone map amendment, is there a motion on our amendment?
Madam Chairman, I'd make a motion that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested amendment to the zone map designation of the properties located at 666 West, 5300 South, and 5322 South Allendale Drive CN commercial neighborhood and RM15 multifamily medium density residential as described in the staff report.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Hacker and a second by Commissioner Pearson to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation of the properties located at 666 West, 5300 South, and 5322 South Allendale Drive from CN Commercial Neighborhood to RM15 Multifamily Medium Density Residential as described in the staff report.
Hey, Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Nay,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, it will move forward to the City Council, which they will also be hearing these items. So that's another opportunity to go and make a public comment and look forward to seeing a project. Thank you so much. Okay, agenda item number 7, Brandon Stringham. I'm assuming that's you guys. Oh, over here. Sunny Flowers Lane. Well, we'll have a presentation by staff first, and then and then you can come up.
We like your enthusiasm.
Yeah, you're ready.
Thanks. This is a request from Brandon Stringham for a zone map amendment for property at approximately 606 East Sunnyflower Lane from A1 to R18. When I say approximately, this is a large parcel of property, 3.5 acres, that does front off of Oxford Hollow Drive. The portion we're talking about is highlighted in the blue, and it is only a 2,540 square feet. So the property owners to the west of him that actually live on Ridge Creek Drive approached Mr. Stringham and wanted to purchase this small portion of property from him. But in order to do so, we need to change the zoning so it would be the same as the zone property on the Ridge Creek Drive. And then they would have to come back later and amend that subdivision and include this small parcel. But I can explain a little more of that in just a minute. So as we can see in the zone map shown here, the small portion is part of a larger portion that is A1 agricultural, and then the request is to change to R18. Our general plan and future land use map call for this area to be a low-density residential, and our low-density residential zoning districts consist of several different ones. A1 is, in fact, one of those, and so is the R112, R110, R18, R16, and R210. All of those are classified under the low-density residential. And you can see on the map there, the yellow area is low-density residential, so all this area basically is mapped for low-density residential. Lovely pictures of the property. Should have had them taken before the snowfall the other day. But anyway, it's just the property is not accessible very well from Mr. Stringham. He actually has to cross the creek to get to it, so it's virtually not very usable for him. And since the Johnsons want to buy it, this is actually a copy of the Bradley Development Subdivision. Sean Bradley is the original owner of this property and developed the property and made a one-lot subdivision out of it for 3.5 acres. And you can see the creek going through it. If the property is changed, if the zoning is changed, like I mentioned, the applicant, the new owners, would need to come back and request to amend the Ridge Creek subdivision and include this odd small parcel as part of that subdivision. The property by itself with the 2,500 square feet is virtually useless, meaning nobody could ever build anything on it, and it basically would be landlocked. Typically, we like to have the zonings correspond with boundary lines, but since this is just a small portion, we're going to hopefully change the zoning and then include it later on. That's the intent, and the applicants have indicated that they would do that, and we'll make sure that that gets done. So in our findings for this request, our general plan does allow for flexibility in the implementation and execution of our goals and policies based on individual circumstances, and this is definitely one of those. The requested zone change has been considered and has the characteristics of the surrounding area and is in line with the policies and objectives of our general plan that we adopted in 2017. And the proposed zone map amendment from A1 to R18 is supported by the general plan and future land use map as indicated. So staff is recommending that the Planning Commission review this application, and if you are comfortable with it, they forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the property generally addressed 606 East Sunnyflower Lane, and of course, it's that small westerly portion of the property. And I think that is about all. We did send out notices, 74 to surrounding residents within 500 feet because of the large size of the parcel itself. We did get one response back, which you have a copy of in your packet, from one of the neighbors from the Hogans, just questioning why they're not changing the entire zoning for the property, or the zoning for the entire property. And I think I kind of explained that. There are advantages and benefits to Mr. Stringham to keep the rest of the properties as A1, agricultural and such as setbacks, and he does get, there is a difference on property taxes, and also there is a little bit difference in the height. And the barn that's existing on the property does exceed the R18 height for that. So it is to his advantage to keep it as A1. Not to say that he couldn't in the future, but just want to explain that there. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, now we would like the applicant to come forward and state your name and address for the record.
I am Brandon Stringham, 606 East Sunnyflowers Lane, Murray 84107.
And do you have anything that you would like to add to
She
the
did an
presentation?
incredible job. Thank you, Susan. So yeah, across the stream from my property, there's a big hill, and they live up on the hill, and this little section of land is also up on the hill. So yeah, I can't access it from my property, and they can. So it seems pretty straightforward. Any questions for me?
Questions for the applicant? No? Okay, thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, I would like to open the public comment regarding this item. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment?
Hi, members of the commission. I'm Sam Johnston, 5753 Ridge Creek Road. I'm just here representing my folks, including my dad, Clark. He's right here. They built the house on 5753 Ridge Creek Road in 1988. They've lived there the entire time. I think it was the third house on the street in the development. So this property, it's always made sense that it would have been part of my folks' property. It's really this strange triangular portion that's landlocked. It's got this really steep hill on one side, and my mom, she has cultivated an abundant garden back there, and so we don't have any intention to do any kind of construction back there other than to just extend the garden. And then really, I think the more important objective is just to preserve the sightline. It's quite wild because there's a number of wild trees and huge historic trees that predate the development that are there on the hillside, on the ridge side. And so I think we just like to keep that beautiful view out the kitchen window. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any other comments for this item? All right. Then I will close the public comment portion and bring it back to the commission for discussion or motion.
Sue?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the zone map amendment for the small westerly portion of property generally addressed as 606 East Sunnyflowers Lane.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Wilson and a second by Commissioner Malkiewicz to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the zone map amendment for the small westerly portion of property. Westerly, is that what we mean?
That's what it's supposed to mean. Yeah.
Westerly portion of the property generally addressed 606 East Sunnyflowers Lane.
Okay,
can take a vote.
thanks. Yeah, Westerly, right.
Westerly.
All right. Mr. Nay,
Yes.
Ms. McCavich,
Yes.
Mr. Hacker,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Pearson,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So motion is approved. It will go on to the city council. So congratulations. One more step in the process. All right. Other business. Before I think we talk about any other business, we just want to recognize Commissioner Wilson. This is her last meeting, and we are so grateful for all of her service and efforts on this commission. She has been an incredible resource and researching and great questions and always so invested and has done such a great job. And we are going to miss her a lot. Any other? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Sue.
Here, here.
I just want to tell the staff and my fellow commission members, thank you very much. And I want the people in my district and in Murray to know that we do read all of your comments. We listen to your comments. We take them very seriously. And there's never a project that comes in front of us that we haven't spent quite a bit of time studying and trying to do what's best for the city of Murray. And and as well as we're following the constraints that we're under to obey city, state, and federal law when we make our decisions. And I'm proud to be a member of this community, and I'm so thankful for this opportunity. I've learned a lot, and hopefully my experience as a builder developer has come in handy from time to time, and I'm sure the legal department will be glad that I'm done.
No, you've done a
Thank
great
you.
job.
And
Thank you,
Merry
Sue.
Christmas.
And Merry Christmas. Yeah. Is there any
I,
further
I,
business?
I couldn't top that. I just wanted to wish you all happy holidays and make sure you know we appreciate you. Sue said it very, very well. You have to agonize over these things, and we wouldn't, as staff, I'm crawling out of my skin when Zach's presenting this, and we worked the project, and but I live in a townhome just like that, with a little remnant neighborhood that was cut off from other parts in Riverton by other commercial development and things. And then they built this townhome where there was just a field, these townhomes. And we love the people in that neighborhood, and they're starting to reinvest in their homes. And I just see the same thing happening here. It's not always that we get a chance to save a little group of homes where there's 30 people, and it's nice to be able to do that and not save them in that sense, but really harden up that line. This is good planning, and we're able to do that because you guys have all put in the work to understand these kinds of things. And so just really grateful for staff and grateful for you guys. We are adding just one piece of news, and I'll let you all go. Aside from Danny, who's serving as our interim director right now, we're adding a new planner in the new year. On January 10th, we'll have a new planner one, brand new kid right out of school, starting with us too. So Zach and Susan will break him in, and if he doesn't quit in the first 2 weeks, it'll be great. And you'll get to meet him eventually. So, but we're happy to expand a little bit and do some more sort of long range things, work on things like those buffered sidewalks that we need to find out there, and do a more in-depth job on things. So we're excited for that in the new year. Wish Sue was going to be with us to do it, but
Commercial
we'll
and
miss you.
parking lots.
Anyway, that's all I've got. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Well, and I guess for the last time, I say motion to adjourn at 7:34.
Is there a second? Meeting adjourned.
Go back in and finish your dinner.
Yeah, I did leave.